Jack Miller stood alone on the observation deck of Lunar Station Alpha. His eyes followed the hegemony inspectors as they moved through the docking bay below. They were tall, blue-skinned aliens with 4 arms and eyes that never seemed to blink. Jack hated them. He watched as they documented the dismantling of Earth's last battlecruiser. The once proud ship was being taken apart piece by piece. Each component was scanned, logged, and packed away. The aliens were thorough. They always were. 10 years had passed since the First Galactic War ended. Humanity had lost badly. The hegemony, a group of 7 alien species, had crushed Earth's forces in the final battle at Proxima Centauri. The peace terms were harsh. Humans could not leave their solar system, could not build warships, and had to surrender all their faster-than-light technology. Jack clenched his fists. He still remembered the day his wife Laura died. She had been on a medical ship when hegemony forces attacked the fleet at Proxima Centauri. The ship had no weapons. They shot it anyway. Captain Miller. Jack turned. Admiral Samantha West stood in the doorway. She was a small woman with steel-gray hair and the hard eyes of someone who had seen too much war. "Admiral," he said with a nod. "Walk with me," she said. They moved through the quiet halls of the station. Few people were around. Most had been sent home after the surrender. "What do you know about Project Defiant?" she asked when they were alone. Jack shook his head. "Nothing, ma'am." The Admiral smiled slightly. "Good. That means our security worked." She pulled a small data chip from her pocket and handed it to him. "This contains the location of our last ship. We hid it in the asteroid belt during the final days of the war. We erased it from all records." Jack stared at the chip. "We have a ship? How? The hegemony took everything." "Not everything," said the Admiral. "The Defiant was our newest prototype. Stealth systems, advanced weapons, and a working quantum drive." Jack could hardly believe it. A ship with faster-than-light capability meant they could leave the solar system. It was strictly forbidden by the treaty. "Why tell me this now?" The Admiral's face darkened. "We've received disturbing intelligence. The hegemony has a secret agency called Specter. They're building a weapon, one that can destabilize stars." Jack felt cold. "They could destroy Earth's sun." "Yes. Or use it as a threat to keep us in line. Forever." She paused. "Our informants in the hegemony Senate are being killed one by one. Soon we'll have no warning at all." They entered a small, secure room. The Admiral sealed the door and activated a jamming device to prevent anyone from listening. "The Defiant needs a captain," she said. "Someone with nothing left to lose." Jack understood immediately. "You want me to take the ship and find this weapon?" "Yes. Gather proof of what Specter is doing, then get that proof to the Galactic Council. Some of the hegemony's own people don't know what Specter is planning. If they did, they might stop it." Jack considered the mission. Leave the solar system illegally. Spy on the most powerful empire in the galaxy. Find a secret weapon. Expose a conspiracy. "This is a suicide mission," he said simply. The Admiral nodded. "Probably. But it might be humanity's only chance." Jack thought of Laura. He thought of Earth, helpless against the hegemony's power. He thought of his empty apartment and the nightmares that came every night. "I'll do it," he said. "Good." The Admiral handed him another data chip. "This has the crew assignments, 23 volunteers. All of them have lost someone to the hegemony. All of them are the best at what they do." "When do we leave?" "Tonight. A supply ship is making a routine run to Mars. You'll be on it. From there, you'll take a mining vessel to the asteroid belt. We've arranged everything." Jack studied the mission details. It would be nearly impossible to succeed, but he had nothing left to lose. That night, Jack met his crew for the first time. They gathered in the cargo hold of the Mars supply ship. None wore uniforms. Those would come later, when they reached the Defiant. Lieutenant Olivia Rodriguez would be his second in command. She was young, but had fought in 3 major battles during the war. Her entire family had died when the hegemony bombed New Seattle, Chief Engineer Peter Kim had helped design many of the Defiant's systems. He was quiet and serious, with steady hands and a brilliant mind. Communications specialist Diane Foster was one of the few humans who could speak all 7 hegemony languages perfectly. She had worked in intelligence during the war, breaking enemy codes. There were 20 others, weapons experts, navigators, medical staff. All had volunteered knowing they might never return to Earth. The journey to Mars was tense but uneventful. Hegemony inspectors checked their cargo but found nothing suspicious. From Mars, they transferred to a mining vessel. The captain was an old friend of Admiral West. He asked no questions. 3 days later, they reached a remote part of the asteroid belt. At first, Jack saw nothing. Then Chief Kim entered a code into the ship's computer. A signal pulsed outward. Something shimmered between 2 large asteroids. The camouflage field dropped, revealing a sleek, deadly ship, the USS Defiant. It was smaller than the cruisers Jack had commanded during the war, but far more advanced. Its hull was dark, designed to absorb sensor scans rather than reflect them. Its lines were elegant but functional. This was a Predator built for stealth and speed. They docked with the Defiant. Inside, everything was cold and dark. The ship had been waiting in low-power mode for years. "Begin startup sequence," Jack ordered as they entered the bridge. "All systems check. I want this ship ready to move in 6 hours." The crew moved with purpose, bringing the Defiant to life. Lights came on. Engines hummed. Computer screens glowed with data. Peter Kim ran his hands lovingly over the engineering console. "She's a beauty, Captain. The quantum drive is unlike anything I've worked with before. Theoretically, we can jump farther and faster than standard hegemony ships." "We'll need that advantage," Jack said. Diane Foster was already at the communications array, testing the encrypted channels they would use to send reports back to Earth. Olivia Rodriguez checked the weapon systems. Pulse cannons are charged, missile tubes are clear, defensive shields at full power. Jack took his place in the captain's chair. It felt right, like coming home after a long absence. "This ship is humanity's last hope," he told his crew. "We're about to break the treaty and enter hegemony space. If we're caught, Earth will suffer. If we fail, the hegemony will have a weapon that could destroy our sun." He looked at each of them. "But if we succeed, we might just save our world and bring down an empire." No one spoke. They didn't need to. Every person on the bridge had made their choice. Jack turned to the navigation officer. "Set course for the edge of the solar system. We leave in 2 hours." The hunt for Specter was about to begin. The Defiant needed to leave the solar system without being seen. Jack and his crew spent hours planning their escape. "The hegemony has patrol ships here, here, and here," said Olivia, pointing to a map of the solar system. "We need to avoid them, all." Jack studied the patrol routes. "We'll use Jupiter to hide our first jump. Its gravity will mask our energy signature." Peter nodded. "Good plan. I can modify our engines to run cool until we're clear of the outer planets." They waited until the hegemony patrol ships were on the far side of their routes. Then, with minimal power, the Defiant slipped from its hiding place in the asteroid belt. The ship moved silently toward Jupiter. Its dark hull absorbed light rather than reflecting it. On radar screens, it would look like just another small asteroid. "Approaching Jupiter," said the navigation officer. "Gravity well in range." Jack took a deep breath. "Engage quantum drive." The ship hummed as its engines powered up. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the stars outside the viewport stretched into lines of light. The Defiant jumped forward faster than light itself, riding the edge of Jupiter's gravity like a surfer on a wave. When they emerged from the jump, the solar system was far behind them. They had broken the treaty. There was no going back. "Set course for TRAPPIST-2, Jack ordered. "It's a neutral trading hub. Our intelligence says a Specter operative works there." The journey to TRAPPIST-2 took 3 days. They traveled in short jumps to avoid detection. During the quiet hours between jumps, Jack got to know his crew better. Olivia Rodriguez spent her free time practicing martial arts in the ship's small gym. "I need to stay sharp," she told Jack when he found her there. "When we find the people who destroyed my home, I want to be ready." Peter Kim rarely left the engine room. He made constant small improvements to the Defiant systems. Every bit of speed and stealth helps, he explained. This ship is special. There's nothing like it in the galaxy. Diane Foster listened to recordings of hegemony communications for hours each day. Their languages have changed since the war, she said. New slang, new code words. I need to understand it all. Trappist 2 was a busy place. Ships from dozens of species docked at the large space station that orbited the system's second planet. Merchants from across the galaxy came to trade goods of all kinds, legal and illegal. Remember, Jack told his crew as they prepared to dock, we're independent traders from the Centauri Confederacy. Our ship's ID codes have been changed, but don't get too comfortable. If they scan us closely, they'll know we're human. The Centauri Confederacy would shoot us for pretending to be them, Olivia pointed out. Yes, Jack agreed. But they don't have authority here, and it's better than being identified as humans from Earth. They docked at the station and began their mission. Their target was a Braxian merchant named Vorlik. The Braxians were tall, thin aliens with gray skin and 3 eyes. Vorlik worked for Specter, coordinating shipments for their secret projects. The crew split up to gather information. Diane went to the communications center pretending to be sending messages home. In reality, she was intercepting Vorlik's transmissions. Peter placed small scanning devices throughout the station's cargo areas. These would track any unusual materials that might be used in Specter's weapon. Jack and Olivia watched the busy markets and bars looking for Vorlik. They found him on the second day meeting with other merchants in a quiet corner of the station's main trading floor. That's him, Olivia whispered. The tall Braxian with the red vest. Jack nodded. Let's not approach him directly. We need to watch him first. For 3 days they followed Vorlik from a distance. They observed his meetings and tracked his movements. Diane decoded his messages. Peter's scanners monitored his shipments. On the 4th day, they made a breakthrough. Captain, you need to see this. Diane called Jack to the communications room. Vorlik is preparing to escort a shipment himself. That's unusual. He normally stays here and sends others to move goods. Jack read the decoded message. Quantum stabilized. Thorium-291. That's rare. And dangerous, Peter added. It's used in high-energy weapons. Very unstable unless handled properly. The message says he's taking it to a facility in the Horsehead Nebula, Diane continued. That's not on any regular trade routes. Jack made a decision. We need to place a tracker on his ship. Then we can follow him to the Specter facility. Their security will detect any normal tracking device, Peter warned. That's why I made this. Peter pulled a tiny object from his pocket. It looked like a grain of sand. Quantum entangled particles inside synthetic organic material. It won't show up on scans because it seems alive. The plan was simple. Jack would bump into Vorlik in a crowded area. During the contact, he would place the tracker on the Braxian's clothing. It would later transfer to his ship when he boarded. The next morning, they put their plan into action. Jack waited near the docking bay where Vorlik's ship was being loaded. When the Braxian approached, Jack timed his move carefully. He pretended to be checking a datapad while walking, not looking where he was going. The collision was perfect. Jack stumbled into Vorlik, apologized quickly in broken Braxian, and moved, away before the alien could get a good look at him. Tracker is placed, Jack said quietly into his communicator. Let's get back to the Defiant and prepare to follow him. But as they approached their ship, alarm sirens began to sound throughout the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Security officers from various species began checking identification of everyone moving through the docking areas. We've got a problem, Olivia said, watching the security teams. They're looking for someone. Diane listened to the station's security channels through a small device in her ear. They're looking for humans, she reported. Someone tipped them off. Jack's mind raced. Get to the ship. Now. Walk. Don't run. Stay casual. They moved as quickly as they could without drawing attention. Most of the security teams were concentrated on the main concourses. The smaller maintenance corridors were less guarded. They were almost to their docking bay when a security officer stopped them. He was a large, reptilian alien with yellow eyes and scales that shifted color as he moved. "Identification," he demanded. In the common trade language, Jack handed over their fake Centauri IDs. His heart pounded as the officer scanned them with a handheld device. The scanner beeped. The officer looked at it, then at them. Jack tensed, ready to fight. The officer handed back their IDs. "Proceed," he said. They walked away, not looking back. Once inside the Defiant, they wasted no time. "Get us out of here," Jack ordered. "Minimal. Power until we're clear of the station." The Defiant detached from the docking clamp and drifted away from the station. They were almost clear when two hegemony cruisers appeared from behind the station's larger docking ring. They were waiting for us, Jack realized. This was a trap. "Engines at full power," he commanded. "Weapons ready. We're going to have to fight our way out." The Defiant raced away from the space station with the two hegemony cruisers close behind. The larger ships opened fire, their energy weapons lighting up the darkness of space. "Evasive maneuvers," Jack ordered. "Head for the asteroid field on the edge of the system." Olivia took control of the ship's movements. Her hands flew across the navigation panel as she guided the Defiant in a series of sharp turns and dives. Most of the enemy fire missed, but one blast struck their rear shields. "Shields at 80%, Peter reported from the engineering station. "We can take a few more hits, but not many." The Defiant had two advantages: speed and maneuverability. The hegemony cruisers were powerful but slow to turn. As they approached the asteroid field, this advantage became clear. "Full power to engines," Jack commanded. "Take us into the densest part of the field." The Defiant darted between massive rocks, some as big as small moons. The cruisers followed but had to slow down to avoid collisions. One tried to go around the field to cut them off. The other continued the chase. "They're splitting up," Diane said, watching the sensor display. "Trying to trap us." Jack studied the tactical screen. "That's what I was hoping for. Target the lead cruiser's engine section. Fire when ready." The Defiant's weapons officer locked onto the pursuing cruiser and fired. The energy pulse hit directly at the larger ship's engine housing. The cruiser slowed, venting plasma into space. "Direct hit," the weapons officer reported. "Their main drive is damaged." "Now for the second one," Jack said. "It will come around the field in about 2 minutes. Hide us behind that large asteroid and power down all non-essential systems." The Defiant moved silently into position. From the outside, it would look like just another dark shadow against the asteroid's surface. They waited as the second cruiser appeared, searching for them. "They're scanning," Diane whispered, though there was no need to be quiet in space. "But they don't see us yet." "Wait," Jack said. "Let them get closer." The cruiser moved past their hiding spot, its sensors sweeping the area but missing the powered-down Defiant. "Now," Jack ordered. The Defiant's engines roared to life. The ship shot forward, weapons firing. This time they targeted the cruiser's sensor array. The blasts tore through the delicate equipment. Temporarily blinded, the cruiser fired randomly, unable to track its small enemy. "Plot a course out of the system," Jack ordered. "Maximum speed. Follow Vorlich's tracking signal." The Defiant left the damaged cruisers behind and jumped to quantum speed. The stars blurred into lines as they fled. The TRAPPIST system. "That was too close," Olivia said when they were safely away. "They knew humans were on the station. Someone betrayed us. Or they're watching for any human activity outside our solar system," Jack suggested. "Either way, we need to be more careful." For the next 2 days, they followed Vorlich's ship at a safe distance. His course led them toward the Horsehead Nebula, a vast cloud of gas and dust that was difficult to navigate. The nebula played havoc with sensors and communication equipment. Why would anyone build a secret base in there? Peter wondered as they approached the swirling clouds of cosmic dust. "The radiation levels are dangerous. Long-term exposure would be deadly." "That's what makes it a good hiding place," Jack said. "No one would look there unless they knew exactly what they were searching for." Diane intercepted fragments of encrypted communications coming from within the nebula. After hours of work, she decoded enough to understand the pattern. The nebula isn't solid, she explained, showing them the data. There are safe corridors through it, but they shift position. These communications contain navigation instructions for ships that need to enter. Can you determine when the next safe corridor will open? Jack asked. Diane nodded. In about 6 hours, it will stay open for 20 minutes before the radiation patterns shift again. They waited, keeping their distance from the nebula's edge. When the time came, the Defiant entered the swirling clouds of dust and gas. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. The ship's sensors gave confusing readings. Stay on course, Jack told the navigation officer. Follow Diane's coordinates exactly. For 6 hours, they moved slowly through the dangerous nebula. Outside, strange lights flickered as radiation interacted with the gas clouds. The ship's hull creaked as pressure and temperature changed around them. Finally, they emerged into a clear area, a bubble of calm space in the heart of the nebula, and there, anchored to a massive asteroid, was what they were looking for. That's no research station, Olivia said as they observed from a safe distance. That's a shipyard. The facility was huge. It consisted of multiple connected structures built into and around the asteroid. Ships of various sizes were docked at its many ports. Worker vessels moved between construction areas, carrying materials and equipment. But what caught Jack's attention were the partially completed vessels in the main construction bay. They didn't look like normal ships. Those are weapon platforms, he said, designed to deliver and deploy something, probably the quantum disruption devices we heard about. Using the Defiant's advanced sensors, they scanned the facility from maximum range. They detected unusual energy readings and high concentrations of exotic materials, including the quantum-stabilized thorium-291 that Vorlik had transported. We need to get closer, Jack decided. Find out exactly what they're building in there. If we move in, they might detect us, Peter warned. We'll use minimal power, just enough for passive scans, no active sensors. The Defiant crept closer to the facility, using the nebula's radiation to mask its approach. They gathered data on energy outputs, communication patterns, and material transfers. Everything pointed to a massive weapon project. Then Diane made a startling discovery. Captain, I've intercepted internal communications from the facility, she reported. They're not encrypted for external transmission, so our systems could break the code. What did you find? Jack asked. The project director is human. A shocked silence fell over the bridge. Jack looked at the data on Diane's screen. There was no mistake. The director of the Specter facility was Dr. Helen Gray, one of Earth's leading quantum physicists. She had been reported killed during the war. Why would a human help them build a weapon that could be used against Earth? Olivia asked, her voice tight with anger. Before anyone could answer, alarm signals flashed across the tactical display. They've detected our scans, the sensor officer reported. Defense platforms are activating. 2 patrol ships are moving to intercept. Get us out of here, Jack ordered. Back to the nebula corridor. But as the Defiant turned to flee, they saw that their escape route was gone. The safe corridor through the nebula had closed. The next opening wouldn't come for 12 more hours. They were trapped. Jack looked at the tactical display. 2 patrol ships were closing in and their weapons were hot. The safe path through the nebula had closed. They had nowhere to run. Options? He asked his crew. We can't outrun them in open space, Olivia said, and we can't hide anymore. They've got a lock on our position. Peter studied the engineering readouts. We could try to enter the nebula anyway. It's dangerous without a safe corridor, but maybe better than being captured. The radiation would damage our systems, Jack said. We might not make it through. Diane spoke up. What if we don't run? What if we attack instead? Everyone turned to look at her. They expect us to flee, she explained. They don't know what our ship can do. If we hit them hard and fast, we might surprise them enough to break through. Jack considered the idea. It was risky, but they had few options. Target their communications array, he ordered. Full power to engines and weapons. Let's hit them before they can call for backup. The Defiant surged forward, engines at maximum. The patrol ships were caught off guard by the aggressive move. They had expected the intruder to retreat, not Attack. The Defiant's weapons fired, striking the nearest facility structure, the central communications tower. Explosions rippled along its surface. Lights flickered and died. Direct hit, the weapons officer reported. Their primary communications are down. Now head for the densest part of the nebula, Jack commanded. Maximum speed. The Defiant turned sharply and raced toward the swirling clouds. The patrol ships followed, firing continuously. Several blasts struck the Defiant's rear shields. Shields at 40%, Peter called out. We can't take much more. The ship plunged into the nebula without a safe corridor. Immediately, warning, alarms sounded throughout the bridge. Radiation levels climbed rapidly. Static filled the communication channels. Hull temperature rising, Peter reported. Sensor systems failing. Keep going, Jack ordered. Find us a place to hide. For 3 hours they moved deeper into the nebula. The patrol ships eventually gave up the chase, unwilling to risk their own vessels in the dangerous environment. But the Defiant was now lost in a maze of radiation and dust with damaged systems. Power levels dropping, Peter said. The nebula's radiation is interfering with our energy cells. Can we repair the damage? Jack asked. Not without shutting down completely. We need at least 6 hours with minimal systems to fix everything. They found a relatively safe pocket in the nebula, an area where the radiation was less intense. There they powered down all non-essential systems and began repairs. While Peter worked on the engines and shields, Jack called his officers to the small conference room. We need to figure out our next move, he said. We've confirmed that Specter is building a weapon that could threaten Earth. We also know that a human scientist is helping them. A traitor, Olivia said bitterly. Maybe, Jack agreed. But why? Why would Dr. Gray help the hegemony build a weapon that could be used against her own people? We need more information, Diane said. And we need allies. We can't fight Specter alone. Jack nodded. You're right. Our original mission was to gather evidence and present it to the Galactic Council. But now I'm not sure that's enough. The Council moves slowly. By the time they act, the weapon could be operational. Who would help us? Peter asked, joining them after setting up automated repair routines. The hegemony controls most of this sector. Any species that helped humans would face their anger. Diane pulled up a star chart on the conference room display. Not everyone in the hegemony is happy with their rule. The Alacrians were the last species to be incorporated into the collective. They still have an active resistance movement. The Alacrian homeworld is called Saren, she continued. It's about 3 days from here at maximum speed. If anyone would help us against Specter, it would be them. The Alacrians hate the hegemony because they were conquered only 20 years ago, Olivia added. Many of them still remember independence. Jack studied the star chart. Can we reach Saren without being detected? If we repair our stealth systems, yes, Peter said. We'll need to be careful, but it's possible. Then that's our next move, Jack decided. We repair the ship, head to Saren, and find allies among the Alacrian resistance. Over the next 6 hours, the crew worked tirelessly to fix the Defiant's damaged systems. Peter directed the engineering team in replacing burnt-out circuits and recalibrating the shields. By the time they were done, the ship was operational again, though not at full capacity. It's the best we can do without a proper dock, Peter said. We're at about 80% efficiency overall. That will have to be enough, Jack replied. Set course for Saren. Use the nebula for cover as long as possible. The journey to the Alacrian homeworld was tense. They had to avoid hegemony patrol routes and stay clear of major trade lanes. Twice they nearly encountered hegemony ships and had to power down to avoid detection. We're approaching Saren, Olivia announced on the 3rd day. Entering the outer system now. Jack looked at the view screen. Saren was a beautiful world with 2 moons and a ring system that glowed purple in the light of its sun. But it was also heavily guarded. Hegemony ships orbited the planet, monitoring all traffic. How do we get past them? Jack wondered aloud. Diane had been working on this problem for days. We can't use our Centauri cover story here. The hegemony checks all ships too carefully. But I have another idea. She explained her plan. They would pose as a damaged merchant vessel in need of emergency repairs. The Defiant's hull still showed signs of their escape from the nebula, which would support their story. Most of the traffic control is automated, she said. If we transmit the right codes and appear harmless, they might let us land without too much scrutiny. It was risky, but they had few alternatives. They approached Saren on a standard commercial vector, transmitting fake identification and a distress signal. "Attention, Saren Control," Diane broadcast. "This is Trading Vessel Horizon. We sustained damage in the outer system and request emergency landing clearance. Life support failing." They waited anxiously for a response. Finally, a bored-sounding hegemony officer replied, "Horizon, you are cleared for landing at secondary port, Bay 12. Maintain current course. Any deviation will result in immediate interception." They followed the designated approach path, acutely aware of the hegemony, weapons targeting them. Jack ordered all weapon systems powered down completely to avoid triggering any alerts. The Defiant landed at a small, dirty spaceport on the outskirts of Saren's capital city. It was filled with trading vessels and repair shops. Perfect for their needs. "Now we need to find the resistance," Jack said as they secured the ship, without revealing who we really are. "I have a contact," Diane said quietly. "A name and a location. Someone who might help us reach the resistance leaders." Jack looked at his crew. They were tired from days of running and fighting, but determination showed in their eyes. "Let's go," he said. "We have a galaxy to save." Jack, Olivia, and Diane left the Defiant disguised as traders. Peter stayed behind with a small team to continue repairs and keep the ship ready for a quick escape. They wore simple clothes typical of independent merchants. Their weapons were hidden but within easy reach. The spaceport was crowded and noisy. Aliens of many species moved among the shops and repair bays. Hegemony soldiers patrolled in groups of 3, their black uniforms standing out against the colorful chaos. "The contact is in a place called the Broken Moon," Diane said quietly. "It's a bar in the old trading district." They hired a ground transport and headed into the city. Saren's capital was a mix of ancient Alacrian architecture and newer hegemony buildings. The older sections were beautiful, with tall, curved structures that seemed to flow like water frozen in time. The hegemony additions were blocky and functional, cutting through the original design like scars. "The Alacrians were artists before they were conquered," Diane explained as they traveled. "Their civilization is thousands of years old." The Broken Moon was a small, dark establishment tucked between 2 larger buildings. A faded sign showed a cracked moon against a night sky. Inside, the air was thick with smoke and the smell of alien drinks. Customers of various species sat at tables and along a curved bar. "Look for an Alacrian with a scar across his left eye," Diane told them. "His name is Ketvar." They found him in a corner booth, watching the room with careful attention. Alacrians were tall and slender, with pale blue skin and large silver eyes. Ketvar's left eye was crossed by a jagged scar that gave him a fierce appearance. "We're looking for parts for our ship," Jack said, using the code phrase Diane had prepared. Ketvar studied them for a long moment. "Rare parts are expensive, especially for outsiders." "We're willing to pay with information," Jack replied, completing the code. The Alacrian nodded slightly. "Wait here." He left the booth and spoke quietly to the bartender. Then he gestured for them to follow him through a door at the back of the bar. Beyond the door was a narrow corridor that led to a small room with no windows. Ketvar closed the door behind them and activated a device on his wrist. A soft humming filled the air. "Anti-listening field," he explained. "Now we can speak freely. You are humans." It wasn't a question. Jack decided honesty was their best approach. "Yes. We've broken the treaty to bring warning of a new hegemony weapon." Ketvar's expression didn't change. "Why would I help humans? Your people signed a peace treaty with the hegemony. Mine were conquered." "The treaty was forced on us," Olivia said angrily. "We had no choice." Jack placed a hand on her arm. "The weapon threatens all free species, not just humans. It's being developed by a hegemony group called Specter." At the mention of Specter, Ketvar's silver eyes narrowed. Speak of this weapon. Diane explained what they had discovered, the quantum disruption field that could destabilize stars, threatening entire systems with destruction. We have proof, she added, showing him data they had gathered from the facility in the nebula. Ketivar studied the information carefully. This confirms what our own agents have suspected. Specter grows too powerful even within the hegemony itself. Will you help us? Jack asked. The Alacrian was silent for a long moment. Yes, but not for humans. For all who suffer under hegemony rule. Ketivar revealed that the Alacrian resistance had been planning their own operation against Specter. They had agents within the hegemony government and military who were concerned about Specter's growing influence. The organization began as intelligence gathering, he explained. Now they make policy and build weapons without oversight. Over the next 2 days, Jack and his crew worked with Ketivar's resistance group. They combined their intelligence and developed a plan. The evidence of Specter's secret weapon needed to reach not just the Galactic Council, but the citizens of all hegemony worlds. Public opinion still matters, Ketivar said. If enough people know what Specter plans, the hegemony Senate will be forced to act. The plan required reaching Hegemony Prime, the capital world at the center of hegemony space. There, they would access the central broadcasting node, which controlled communications across all hegemony territories. We have allies inside the facility, Ketivar told them. They can get you in, but you must move quickly. Security is tight. The Defiant would need to be disguised as an Alacrian diplomatic vessel. Jack, Olivia, and Diane would pose as Alacrian officials, using special clothing and makeup to hide their human features. Peter would modify their evidence into a data package that could override the broadcasting system. As they prepared to leave Seren, Diane decoded a troubling message from Earth. Admiral West had been arrested on suspicion of treason. Hegemony forces were searching the entire solar system. They're looking for us, Jack realized. They know the Defiant exists. The journey to Hegemony Prime took 5 days. They traveled slowly, using official Alacrian diplomatic codes provided by Ketivar. The disguise worked well enough to get them past the first security checkpoints. Hegemony Prime was an artificial world, a massive space station built around a small moon. It housed the Senate chambers, administrative offices, and homes for officials from all 7 hegemony species. The central broadcasting node was located in a tall tower at the heart of the administrative district. Jack, Olivia, and Diane landed at a diplomatic port and were met by Ketivar's contacts. Security has been increased, one of them warned. Specter suspects something. They moved through crowded streets toward the tower. Jack felt exposed despite his disguise. Hegemony security officers were everywhere, checking identification and watching for suspicious behavior. At the tower entrance, their fake credentials worked. They were escorted to a lift that would take them to the broadcasting level. So far, everything was going according to plan. But when the lift doors opened at their destination, they found Dr. Helen Gray waiting for them, surrounded by armed guards. Captain Miller, she greeted him calmly. You've come a long way from Earth. Jack's heart sank. Their disguises had failed. Somehow, Specter had known they were coming. Your Alacrian friends have been arrested, Dr. Gray continued. Specter has been aware of their resistance activities for some time. Why, Helen? Jack asked. Why help them build a weapon that could destroy Earth? Not destruction. Control. She looked at each of them. The quantum disruption field can be precisely calibrated. It can cause minor solar flares as a warning, or trigger a full nova. The choice will belong to those who maintain the peace. Peace through fear isn't peace, Olivia said. It's tyranny, Dr. Gray shrugged. Call it what you will. The Hegemony Senate has approved the project. In fact, after your break from Earth, they're eager to see a demonstration. You're going to target Earth, Jack realized with horror. In 3 days, Dr. Gray confirmed. Your actions have only accelerated our timeline. As she spoke, Jack felt a familiar vibration. The building's power was fluctuating. On the Defiant, Peter had detected their capture and initiated his part of the emergency plan. You made one mistake, Jack said. You assumed we came alone." At that moment, the lights flickered and alarms began to sound. Peter had launched a cyber attack against the broadcasting node's systems. In the confusion, Jack and Olivia moved quickly. They disarmed the nearest guards while Diane rushed to the central console. She inserted the data core containing their evidence and started the override sequence. Across thousands of worlds, regular broadcasts were interrupted. Screens displayed proof of Specter's weapon and their plans to use it against not just Earth, but any world that challenged them. The truth was out. The weapon in the Horsehead Nebula would be found and destroyed. Specter's power was broken. Earth was safe.